right, everybody. How you doing? My name is Attorney Anthony Reeves, and I'm going to give you my legal beat tip of the day. It's called the date last insured, or what we call the DLI. This is going to be a little complicated, and I'm going to try to do the very best I can to break it down. If you don't understand, ask questions, send me comments, or send me a message. A lot of you do a really good job about doing that. So by all means, don't hesitate in doing so. But here's what date last insured. Most people, when you're thinking about applying for Social Security disability benefits, you don't really have an idea which program you're qualified for. But let's talk about how this actually plays out in terms of that term. If you work, everybody knows Social Security takes money out of your check every month. Most people think that money goes towards retirement. It does, but it also goes towards disability insurance benefits for you in the event that you are unable to work. Now, mind you, you have to basically make 20 out of the last 40 work 20 out of the last 40 quarters and make a certain dollar amount to earn a quarter of coverage. So basically, you have to work 5 out of the last 10 years. And what happens is when you pay into the system, you're building up insurance coverage. Social Security is almost the opposite of regular insurance. Like when you buy insurance, it basically covers you for as long as you're paying it. Once you stop paying, the coverage will end after a period of time. Social Security works almost in the same manner, but a little different. You're paying for insurance coverage, but what happens is that you have to build up coverage. Build up coverage. That's why when people tell you you don't have enough coverage, you're like, what does that mean? That means you haven't paid up enough in the system on a continual basis for a set period of time to have coverage for purposes of Social Security's disability insurance benefits program. But now let's assume, for instance, that you have. You've worked 5 out of the last 10 years, you've earned the amount of coverage that you need. What ends up happening is that coverage will last you not only while you're working, but once you stop working. So, for instance, let's say that you've earned enough coverage through, you worked 5 of the last 10 years, and your coverage starts with you stop working around December of '05. Then all of a sudden you get a notice that tells you that you have insurance coverage that expires December 31st, 2010. Well, what does that mean for you? I know some of you are like, you'll get a decision and it'll say, hey, we think that you might be disabled. The problem is we haven't found any medical evidence before either December of 2010. It'll give a month, a date, and a year. Usually, if you look at it, it's usually a month that is a part of a quarter. That means it's the third month and the third quarter. It'll be something weird like that. It's usually based on kind of a quarterly basis. And it's usually a month, a date, and a year. Sometimes people see that and they're like, are they saying that my insurance ran out and that I can't get any disability benefits at all? Let me slow it down a little bit and explain it to you. Let's pause for a second. Let's say, for instance, and let's use now, you stopped working. Let's use the example that I provided in '05, and it says your disability insurance benefits ended on December 31st, 2010. What does that mean to you? Well, let's say you haven't worked the entire 5 years. Okay, why didn't you stop working? Well, let's say you said you got hurt in like December of '05. That's why you stopped working. Well, as long as you apply for disability benefits at any time and you can demonstrate that your disability began before your insurance coverage expired, which in this example is December 31st, 2010, you're fine. So let's see how this plays out. Let's say that you stopped working in December of '05 because your mom got sick and you went to take care of her. So you went to go take care of her. You didn't work in '05, '06, '07, '08, '09. And let's say in about, October of 2010, you decide, after your mom, gets better, you want to go back into the workforce. You get in a nasty car accident and you can't work. You're in rehab, you're in therapy, and then finally you realize you need to apply for Social Security disability benefits. But by the time you've gone through all your rehab and everything, it's like June of 2011. So you're freaking out thinking, oh my gosh. Well, the first thing they're going to ask you is, when did your disability benefit begin? When did you become disabled? Excuse me. And when you tell them, well, the date of the accident, which was when? October 2010. Is that before December 31st of 2010? Absolutely. Are you fine? Yes. As long as you can demonstrate that. Now, there's other thing that you need to be aware of. Like I said, it's a little complicated. It also causes what we call a disability freeze. which means if they find that you're disabled going back to October of 2010, basically for most parts, your insurance coverage freezes on that date and moves forward with you as long as you live. And basically, what it does is that let's say they determine that your condition improves. Well, you haven't worked in a number of years, and you're thinking to yourself, "But I'm still disabled." Or maybe you try to go back to work and you realize you can't go back to work. Are you still stuck with that December 31st, 2010 date? No, because remember, once you're found disabled, that date freezes and moves forward prospectively. So now, as opposed to 2010, you're probably, if let's say they determine you're no longer disabled in 2014, well, your disability, your date last insured is probably going to be somewhere around 2014. That's the nice part. Here's where most people get caught. Let's say using that exact same example I provided you. You stop working in '05. In 2010, is when your insurance expires. Let's say out of nowhere, you go back to work and you get hurt on January 1st, 2011. You apply for disability benefits and you indicate that you became disabled on January 1st. Are you able to get disability benefits based on your earnings? No. Why? Because you're outside of your insurance coverage. Your insurance coverage expired December 31st, 2010. Your disability, according to your indication, was started on January 1st, 2011. Unfortunately, you're out of gas. Okay. Here's the other thing that pops up with regards to that number, because this is where people kind of lose sight on this as well. Let's say your date last insured is like 2015. So you go to the hearing today, you're found disabled, and all of a sudden you see in there about the disability insurance coverage on December of 2015. Does that mean that on December 2015, when your insurance coverage ends, your disability ends? No, that's something totally different. What it basically means to tell you is that because you were able to demonstrate that you were disabled within the period was covered by your insurance, which is before just 2015, December 2015, you're fine. You're covered for purposes of that program. And remember, as I stated before, you have a disability insurance freeze. So that DLI number at 2015 freezes. So let's say 3 or 4 years from now, they find that you're not disabled anymore in 2014. Does that mean your date last insured is still 15? No, it's still frozen. So now, as opposed to you're in 2014, that's 3 years now. It'll probably be 2018 for when your insurance cover expires. Make sense? Here's the best thing for you to know. For those of you who are like, I'm so confused, remember this. When you work and pay into the system, you are earning coverage so that if you can demonstrate that your disability began while you were covered, then you're fine for disability portion, for in terms of being able to apply. You still have to go through the burden of going through the disability process, but you can still apply based on your earnings. Keep that in mind. Also, if you are found disabled, the date that they make a determination that you are disabled will freeze your date last insured date and move it forward prospectively. So don't freak out and think that because you're after that, if something happens and you're found to no longer be disabled, again, are you handcuffed to that prior date? That's not the case. And keep in mind this other thing, and this is the last point. Let's say for something weird that you find out you don't have enough coverage. Make sure you go back and check your records, because a lot of times what happens, people work under the table, meaning they get money on the side, they don't report it to Social Security, which they should, or maybe they worked for an employer who did not report it. If you know that you have worked enough and paid enough into the system and you don't have enough quarters of coverage, or maybe your coverage is really far back, make sure you go back and check. Okay? Or if you know you work, like I'll give you a good example. I had a lady that I'm working with right now. They said her DLI was '01. Well, she had worked like 6 years after that, but they overlooked that. So once I informed Social Security, they went and recalculated her. Her DLI is like 2012. So if you know you worked and paid enough into the system and you think they have the number wrong, ask them to look at it again, because they can always recalculate it. Like I said, the DLI, kind of confusing. I hope I was able to bring some light to it, but if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. legalbeat.anthonyreeves.com or visit my website at www.reevesfirm.com. Hope this helped you out. Have a wonderful day.